"You're nothing but dead weight in my successful life, Dad. You should have died years ago." Those were the exact words that came out of my own son Michael's mouth the day I discovered he had sold my beach house in Malibu without my knowledge. What he didn't know was that I had documents that would change his life forever, and definitely not for the better. My name is Robert Patterson. I'm 72 years old, and for 40 years I worked as a civil engineer in Los Angeles. Before I continue with this story, I want to ask you something from my heart. If this story is touching you in any way, if you feel that someone close to you deserves more respect and recognition, please don't leave without giving me a like. It's not just about numbers. It's your way of telling me that real stories like mine matter. And if you believe more people need to hear these experiences, please subscribe to this channel. I also want you to know that I read every single comment, so please share in the comments if you've experienced something similar, or if you know someone who has gone through a situation like this. Your story matters to me too. For 4 decades, I built my life brick by brick in America. I worked on some of Los Angeles' most important buildings, from the Wilshire Grand Center to residential complexes in Beverly Hills. My wife Margaret and I raised Michael in a beautiful home in Santa Monica. When Margaret died 5 years ago from cancer, I thought Michael and I would support each other through our grief. How wrong I was. After the funeral, Michael completely changed. He moved into my house with his girlfriend Jessica, an ambitious woman who worked in real estate development. At first, I thought it was temporary, that he just needed emotional support, but I soon realized that Jessica had set her eyes on something much more than just my son. The beach house in Malibu was my most precious treasure. I bought it in 1985 with the savings of my entire lifetime. It was the place where Margaret and I spent our wedding anniversaries, where Michael learned to walk on the sand, where we created the most beautiful memories of our family. After Margaret's death, I would go there every weekend to feel her presence and remember better times. It was my sanctuary, my connection to everything I had loved in my life. But Michael and Jessica started making strange comments about the house. "Dad, it's such a shame that property is being wasted," Jessica would say with a fake smile. "You could sell it and use the money for something more practical." Michael would nod whenever she spoke, like a puppet controlled by invisible strings. I would explain to them that this house wasn't just property, it was part of my soul, but all they could see were dollar signs. Have you ever noticed how some people only see monetary value where others see priceless memories? Things got worse when Jessica convinced Michael that I was living in the past and needed help making rational decisions. They started treating me like I was a child incapable of managing my own affairs. Jessica even suggested I should consider moving to a retirement home. "It would be better for you, Robert," she would say with that condescending voice she used when she wanted to appear concerned. "You'd have activities, people your age, medical attention." What she really meant was, "Get out of the way so we can do whatever we want with your money." One day I came home after my morning walk along the Santa Monica Pier and found Michael and Jessica whispering in the kitchen with papers spread across the table. When I approached, they quickly gathered everything up. "Just reviewing some work documents, Dad," Michael lied without even looking me in the eyes. But I'd seen enough to recognize real estate forms. My heart raced, but I decided not to confront them yet. Sometimes it's better to observe and gather information before acting, especially when you suspect someone is planning to betray you. Over the following weeks, I noticed strange changes. Michael would receive phone calls that he answered in private. Jessica spent hours on her computer researching investment opportunities, and both were unusually kind to me, as if they were trying to keep me happy while executing some secret plan. One afternoon, while cleaning Michael's office, I found a business card from a real estate agent with handwritten notes about coastal properties with development potential. My blood froze when I saw that he had written down the exact address of my Malibu house. That night, I confronted Michael directly. "Son, is there something you need to tell me about the beach house?" I asked during dinner. His reaction gave him away immediately. He became nervous, avoided eye contact, and stammered excuses about just exploring options for the future. Jessica quickly intervened, saying it was important to plan ahead to maximize family assets. I knew they were lying, but I needed concrete proof of what they were planning. The next day, I drove to Malibu to check on the property. Everything seemed normal on the outside, but when I spoke with my neighbor, Mr. Thompson, a Vietnam veteran who had lived there for 30 years, he gave me news that broke my heart. "Robert, several real estate agents have come to inspect your property in the past few weeks," he said with genuine concern in his voice. "I thought you were selling, but when I asked them, they said they were just doing preliminary evaluations. Is everything okay?" I assured him everything was under control, but inside I knew my worst nightmare was becoming reality. That same afternoon, I received a call that would confirm all my suspicions. It was from the Los Angeles County Recorder's Office. "Mr. Patterson, we are processing the property transfer of your Malibu house and need to confirm some details," said the clerk. "According to our records, your son Michael Patterson initiated the sale process as an authorized co-owner." My world collapsed. Michael had forged documents to make himself appear as a co-owner of the house and had already started the sale process. The betrayal was complete and systematic. I drove back to Santa Monica in a state of total shock. My own son, the person I trusted most in the world, had betrayed me in the most cruel way possible. He was selling his mother's memories. He was destroying the last place where I could feel her presence. But what Michael and Jessica didn't know was that I had something that would completely change the rules of the game. During my years as a civil engineer, I had learned the importance of meticulous documentation and careful legal planning. You see, when I bought the Malibu house in 1985, my lawyer advised me to create a family trust specifically for that property. This trust included very specific clauses about unauthorized transfers and consequences for attempted fraud. Additionally, I had installed a discrete security system on the property that recorded all visits, including those from the real estate agents that Michael had brought without my knowledge. Everything was documented, recorded, and legally protected. That night, while Michael and Jessica celebrated what they thought was their upcoming financial victory, I was in my office preparing the biggest surprise of their lives. I contacted my attorney, Paul Weinstein, who had handled my legal affairs for 20 years. When I explained the situation, his reaction was immediate and clear. "Robert, what Michael has done constitutes real estate fraud, document forgery, and elder financial abuse. This will not only void any sale, but could result in criminal charges." Paul assured me we would take immediate legal action to protect the property and hold Michael accountable for his actions. The next day was Saturday, and Michael announced he was going to Malibu to check on some things at the house. Jessica would accompany him to take measurements for renovation. I knew exactly what they were planning. One final visit before completing the sale. What they didn't know was that I had arrived there early that morning with my lawyer, a private investigator, and documents that would expose every lie they had told. When Michael and Jessica arrived at the house, they found me waiting for them in the living room, surrounded by evidence of their betrayal. Their faces went from shock to terror in seconds. "Dad, what are you doing here?" Michael stammered, as if I were the intruder in my own property. "The right question, son," I replied with a calm that surprised even myself, "is what are you doing here with fraudulent documents trying to sell your dead mother's house?" I showed them the security recordings of all their secret visits, the forged documents they had submitted to the county, and the communications with real estate agents they had been hiding. Jessica tried to deny everything, but the evidence was overwhelming. Michael, faced with irrefutable proof, finally admitted what he had done. "Dad, I'm sorry, but we needed the money for our future," he said, as if that justified destroying his mother's legacy. "Your future," I replied, "just changed dramatically." My lawyer then explained the legal consequences of their actions: criminal charges for fraud, civil lawsuits for damages, and immediate cancellation of any claims on the property. But my biggest surprise was yet to come. I pulled from my pocket a document I had been keeping for years, my updated will. "Michael," I said, looking him directly in the eyes, "for 72 years I've learned that actions have consequences. You chose to betray your father's trust and dishonor your mother's memory for money. Today you discover the consequences of those decisions." I opened the will and read the relevant part. "Due to actions demonstrating lack of respect for family values and betrayal of trust, I leave all my assets, including the Malibu house, to Children's Hospital Los Angeles and the Cancer Research Foundation in memory of Margaret Patterson." The silence that followed was deafening. Jessica began to cry, not from remorse, but from frustration over losing the money she had been counting on. Michael looked at me with a mixture of shock and rage. "You can't do this, Dad," he screamed. "I'm your only son." "Exactly," I replied. "You are my only son, and that's why it hurts so much more that you chose money over respect, greed over love." Today, 6 months after that day in Malibu, Michael and Jessica face criminal charges for real estate fraud. He lost his job when his employer learned about the legal charges. She lost her real estate license. Both are living in a small apartment in the valley, struggling financially while paying legal fees for their criminal defense. Meanwhile, I still visit my beach house every weekend, feeling Margaret's presence and knowing I protected her memory from those who would have destroyed everything for money. The most important lesson I've learned is that family is not defined by blood, but by respect and love. Michael may be my biological son, but he stopped being family the day he chose to betray me. Now my real family are the people who value what Margaret and I built, the doctors at the Children's Hospital who save young lives, the researchers fighting cancer, the people who understand that some treasures cannot be bought or sold. If this story has touched your heart, if you felt the indignation I felt, or if you know someone who has been betrayed by family, I want you to know that you're not alone. Share your experience in the comments because these stories connect us and remind us that we deserve respect regardless of our age. Give this video a like if you believe actions have consequences, and subscribe if you want to keep hearing real stories from real people who found justice when they thought all was lost. Remember, never underestimate the power of an older person who has lived 70 years, learning that dignity is not negotiable and that betrayal always finds its punishment. This has been my real story, told from the heart, to remind you that true wealth is not in the properties we own, but in the values we protect and in the memory of those we love.